All right, everyone. Venezuela's pretty close to teetering on the brink of collapse here. Like as I said weeks ago, when Pompeo came out, well, I think he was in Korea at the time, was the weird part, and made an offhand comment about the illegitimacy of the Maduro regime. I said, there it is. There's that loaded term there. It's an important term used in a diplomatic context. The U.S. officially recognizing, no, he's not the leader of Venezuela at all. The opposition is. He's gone too far. He's scrapped the Constitution, fucked up the legislature. He ignores the courts. He's having people killed. He's ignoring the people. People are starving. Basically a low-key civil war at this point. He's no longer a legitimate leader. We can't conduct diplomacy with him because of the state of emergency that exists within his country for so long. When you have prolonged struggle and collapse on this order in a country, other countries become slightly hesitant to deal with you. And it's like Turkey and Russia are coming out right now saying, well, hands off in Venezuela. You're adding fuel to the fire. Well, dude, there's no more fuel to add. They don't have a functioning economy. And there was this socialist bullshit I saw the other day, right? And I tweeted it out so that people could go and ridicule it, which they did, which is pretty funny. I think they're deleting comments on it, though, so how sad. Leftists censoring people who've never seen that before. In which this one Venezuelan is like, oh, well, no, there were only like a few thousand people protesting for the opposition. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at a stream, and it's like at least several tens of thousands of people. It's probably 30 or 40K. Just in Caracas. And this is being replicated across the country. You have rallies in other countries now, too, around the Venezuelan embassies, or in general. You had like 10,000 people in Spain rallied for the opposition the other day. And by the way, this isn't like some people are trying to cast this off as a capitalistic coup. It has nothing to do with capitalism. The opposition is being led by a socialist. It's just a person, a member of a reform party. Bullshit, dude. The Popular Party. No, Guiado is not a far right-winger. Guiado is not even close to right-wing on any economic issue. He is a socialist, and that's really the problem. Here's the problem for me. Let's say the opposition wins. Maduro is now facing calls to leave from even some within his own military. There are reports that some of his police and some soldiers have already defected. At least one high-ranking Air Force general defected, called on the rest of the military to support Guaido. It's close to the coup line. It's getting close to the end, I think, for Maduro. Let's say the opposition wins. Is Guaido going to restructure the economy in such a way that it actually is capable of dealing with the hyperinflation, mass starvation, the crippling levels of unemployment, lack of infrastructure, the degradation of its oil system? Is Guaido going to be able to actually solve the problem? The problem is, the only way to do that is to get help from other countries. China's already forgiven debt several times, the Europeans have, they've got partnerships with like Cuba and the Russians and stuff. Has it helped? No, it hasn't. And the economy was already fucked long before we started sanctioning the oil there. So don't fucking tell me it's a CIA coup attempt. It's like, oh, U.S. troops are on the ground in Colombia. Well, yeah, I wonder why they would be there. Is it to defend an ally in case they get fucked by the Venezuelan soldiers going across the border to raid things? Because Maduro loses control? Is it to help with the coordination of refugee movements when the Maduro government probably collapses? Yeah, I think it is. You see, Colombia has just recently become stable itself, so it'd be nice to keep that ally from getting jeopardized by the movement of millions of refugees and have nothing further beyond a few troops of their own on the border. Or again, Maduro's troops go haywire and say, well, fuck this shit. We're going to go in there, we're going to raid farms on the other side of the border to feed our families because there's no longer an acting government. If the country falls into civil war, stuff like that tends to happen. It's not like the borders are particular. Why do you think that the Brazilians and the Colombians have started building so many more fortified border outposts and putting more troops on them? They were already doing that. They know Colombia, it's a far-right government. Brazil is far-right. Brazil's not far-right. Bolsonaro's a routine populist. Far-right. It's a conspiracy. Everything's a conspiracy. The funny part is Russia foments far-right leaders in places like Brazil and the U.S., but then their pawns are trying to overthrow the leftists rightfully elected in Venezuela. Oh my God. So it's Russia all the way down. It's always a fucking conspiracy with these people. How about you look at it for what it really is? Maduro was handed an economy that was roaring ahead, but it was weak. It was built on Chavez's idea that the oil would be expensive forever, and so he could borrow money forever because of speculation about the oil income. And so he borrowed way too much money to give people microwaves and refrigerators and build tenement houses and shit. To build favelas that weren't even finished when the collapse came. So you've got all this debt, and you're thinking, well, I mean, the debt's not a problem. I can spend more now to develop things rather rapidly. Then once we've developed, then we begin branching out. His plan was long term. The problem is he gambled and he fucking lost. Yeah, he totally got wiped out because oil prices collapsed, they have stayed low, and Venezuela can't make its debt payments. And they're like, well, it's very important to pay our debt. We don't want to default on that because we don't want the entire world breathing down our neck and the shuttering of every factory, so we'll keep making the debt payments. Oh, wait, we can't subsidize things anymore. We don't have enough money to even feed our troops, let alone to keep subsidizing food for the population. This one crazy socialist that they were interviewing there on that Moderate Rebel podcast, what bullshit it was, is in Caracas. And it's like, if you look at her background, it's like, okay, you've got the picture of socialist iconography and the ornate bookshelf and all the modern conveniences. How many people in Venezuela even have electricity at this point regularly? Yes, I'm sure that they're calling into YouTube shows to express their undying gratitude for dear leader Nicolas Maduro. Fuck you. Venezuela. It's not for disdain of the Venezuelan people that I would say that, but it's a failed economy. It doesn't work. That's Chavez's fault. Maduro's main problem, the opposition just wants him to stop killing people. They don't want to abandon socialism. Guaido is barely different. Guaido will come in, if this attempt is successful. He's like, okay, I'm the president now. I'm going to hold a snap election or whatever. And he'll do the same shit that Maduro's doing in due time unless he manages to stabilize the economy. Because people go haywire and he'll have to shoot people. It'll be an unfortunate reality because there'll be civil war still. Venezuela will eventually collapse down to its zero-sum sort of game, back into Cabbage Patch mode like it was before Glorious People's Liberation Revolution of Bolivar and bullshit, and then the process will start all over again. Socialism tends to infect countries and become recurrent like a relapse of malaria symptoms or something like that. It's just totally fucking asinine that there are people defending the Maduro regime. Oh yeah, it's only a few thousand people marching in Caracas. Nobody really cares. The opposition's not that well organized. Oh, really? Well, then how did they get that one general to defect? That's never happened before. Why is it that I'm watching a live stream like fucking 20, 30,000 people marching through the streets? The other day it looked like it was closer to 100,000. Like a significant proportion of the fucking population of the city, and that's just Caracas. Yeah, well, what about the outlying areas, the smaller towns where Maduro's presence is more tenuous anyway because it's like, hey, I need my manpower around me in case the tanks come rolling in from Colombia or something. What the fuck, some of these more outlands areas, I bet there are no Maduro supporters. They're like, at least we have food out here. You know, we can grow a fucking banana tree or whatever. He probably socializes that. It's not your banana tree, it belongs to the government and to the people of Venezuela. Here's your one banana. Thanks for growing it. Don't even get enough calories. Most of these people in Venezuela are probably barely making ends meet in the caloric department. Like, you do a bunch of hard labor, breaking rocks in the rock quarry or whatever, and you get like your 2 bowls of rice. And it's like you're probably losing weight. You look at pictures of people there, and it's like it's an awfully. They don't have an obesity problem. That would be Maduro's new PR campaign. He's going to go before the UN and say, look, we've reduced childhood obesity to 0%, the first nation to do that outside of, continental Africa, in the last century. Look at how great it is, ha. Oh, people are like malnourished and fucked up. They're not healthy, but at least they're not fat, says Maduro. He's a little bit on the portly side, though. He just looks like a classic Latin American dictator. And he basically is now. He's not a democratically elected representative. He's looked over a fudgy election anyway. Basically dissolved the Constitution in the legislature, even though he wasn't allowed to do so. Ignores the courts. What functioning government? He's just another fucking tin horn dictator. Somebody should get a helicopter in there. Yeah, I think that'd be a wonderful thing. That's about all. Peace out.